Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whatever time of day it is that you're viewing this podcast. I'm your host, Nicholas Hall, and welcome into Lincoln County Living, the podcast for the people, by the people. Today, the episode is called What to Expect When You're Inspecting. We're going to be talking about home inspections in general, but we will also be talking about other inspections as well that Austin McCrary here provides. So today I'm joined by Austin McCrary. He is owner and and an inspector, I guess, not a home inspector. He's corrected
Right.
me on that already. But he
Property
is the
inspector.
owner. Yes, he is the owner of AMA Inspections, and we're going to get right into it. How are you doing today, Austin?
Good. Very good. And yourself?
I'm doing great. To get things kicked off, we're going to talk about Austin a little bit, who he is, so we get to know him more as a person. Can you tell me a little bit about yourself and your background in home inspections?
Austin McCrary here. I grew up in Hobbs, New Mexico, worked in the oil field for a long time as an electrician, did all kinds of wild, crazy oil field stuff there. Got too high on the ladder, I guess, and was in a manager spot. Stressful. Had 2 children, moved to Ruidoso. Life is great now. Yeah, 2 boys, 3 and 6, 3 and 5, almost 6. But we're on the move quite a bit. We like doing fun stuff. And yeah, my mother-in-law, I guess we kind of move into how I got into the inspector gig. My mother-in-law was a realtor here for a while and just casually mentioned that it was hard to get a home inspection scheduled and within 2 weeks or whatever, and kind of started thinking that was a decent opportunity to escape the oil field and started doing international stuff on the internet in my spare time. And about 6 or 7 months later, I had a certification. Back then it was still, New Mexico was an unregulated state. So I got in right at the tail end of that and wound up having to hook up with another company to help out with credential license, like the state license. Now, as of 2021, New Mexico is a regulated home inspection state. And it's a great thing. It's a great thing for both sides. And then like the inspector and the client. I started back on my own at the beginning of the year. I think it's been wonderful. It's awesome. I really, really enjoy my job as far as like the freedom that it provides. It's kind of self-employed now, but yeah, it's a wonderful trade-off. The oil field for real estate in Ruidoso, I haven't had to go back yet. So,
I mean, I don't blame you. I know real estate is one of those industries that'll never die. At least you have kind of like a forever career when it comes to real estate.
I do carry in just the credentials as far as a state licensed home inspector, electrical journeyman license for 21 years now. That's kind of crazy. I'm licensed to inspect for termites in the state of New Mexico through the New Mexico Department of Agriculture. I hope to have my drone pilot's license and ham radio license pretty quick. Been working on them.
How long I know AMA is new, but I know you're not fresh to the inspection game. How long have you been doing inspections for?
So going on 5 years, we showed up to Ruidoso about right at 2020, right when the pandemic happened, and it was a wild occasion. Moving and then having the pandemic, it was really wild. But
what do you enjoy most about being being an inspector?
I really sincerely enjoy helping people, and I think that's pretty common through like real estate in general as an agent, whether you're on one side of buyers or sellers, whatever. But you have the knack for helping people and joining people together in some cases, as far as like helping them making educated and informed decisions is basically the ideal of what my job should be doing. And I enjoy it. I enjoy doing that by listening and meeting people where they're at, understanding briefly their situations. Like I don't need to know your whole life, but like, hey, I'm moving here for this reason, or hey, I'm using this house as a rental property. So that helps me gauge a little bit of how I'm going to perform the inspection, what really to know. Helping people and catering that report to the client, But it's a lot about the people and work relationships, the diversity between clients and real estate agents in different areas and offices, working effectively with people, a lot of different people, lots of talented, great, wonderful real estate agents. They're all out there, and I like to say, I work for the buyer and cater to the agent, or cater to the agents. That's a plural thing because I have the access,
Yes.
Working with people. Things go.
Gotta
Things
make
happen.
it easy for everybody.
I just enjoy it. It's always something new. But honestly, great people everywhere. And it's been wonderful developing those work relationships and even client relationships. And in some cases, I try to really be the guy that just swoops in, inspects, here's your report, and then swoops out. I'll be out here if you need me, but if not, I'll leave you alone. On the flip side of that, like personally, it does provide like. I try to do 2 inspections a day when I can, when it's busy. But it affords a little bit of personal freedom that's you don't find with a 9 to 5. I try to hustle and do work, and sometimes it's like I don't have anything scheduled today. This is awesome. I want there to be, but it's not such a bad thing. like on a Wednesday being at home working out in the yard, something like that. Or
Right.
getting to go
Right.
somewhere.
There's definitely a lot of freedom whenever it
Yeah.
comes to real estate.
Then it's been very successful. Like, it was very surprising. Like, I think a lot of it's like what you put into it. And then I've definitely tried to, number one, be humble and learn, not try to push it in the door. I'm the inspector here. No, we're really nobody. We're third party and neutral. I like the position that I take between like I said, I waltz in and waltz out. But yeah, there's a lot of cool stuff about the job.
I know people have a misconception pretty often that the home inspector is a big, scary entity and they're just there to make your day bad. But Austin definitely is not that way. I've used his services quite a bit. My wife has as well. He always answers the phone. He's ready to go. He's very detail oriented. He knows his stuff. So, and he offers a lot of different kinds of inspections. It's not just home inspections, commercial inspections. AMA home inspections is new, but Austin's not. That's the summary that I'm trying to give here. So what services does AMA inspections provide?
So besides like the run-of-the-mill home inspection, we do commercial inspections. I've done big warehouses. I've done industrial facilities in the oil field. Kind of go back and do taking some pictures of random things and saying, hey, that needs to be replaced, kind of stuff. It's not rocket science by any means, but definitely gets spread around. I try to have a 3-hour window around Ruidoso. I get into mold testing, water testing, air quality, like lead paint and sewer scope. So those have been really, like you can bundle them all together. Sewer scope, termite inspection, which a lot of the times you have to have for a loan to be processed. And the sewer scope, termite, and the home inspection can all be bundled together, and you get a better price on the whole deal. It's been said, I'll inspect anything for money. Like it's more about getting it looked at, but it's situational based. Like I do a lot of random stuff. Like I can even begin to I inspected several space telescopes in Mayhill. Like they had some foundational issues. And then they wanted the rest of the facility inspected. This is huge. I mean, you wouldn't believe this is the middle of nowhere. The research to be the darkest areas in the United States, but there's big, huge telescopes out there, and I got to go look at them and make some recommendations on some stuff. But yeah, very random. But ancillary stuff, general testing. We work with EMSL Labs. They're a huge national laboratory. They do radioactive stuff. I don't handle any of that, but I mean, it doesn't hurt to ask if we can do it.
Yeah, because
there's a lot.
There's services that I've asked Austin for and didn't even know that he did. I was like, it's probably a long shot, but do you do? I think it was asbestos or something like that, and he tests for that as well.
The manufactured home certificates are a decent one too. That not all the home inspectors get into. I know some other ones do, but it's a necessary part of the puzzle for a real estate transaction dealing with manufactured homes. And I work with an engineer. To get and he basically signs a certificate saying you need to have this repaired, and after that I'll issue the final certificate. But I do the legwork sometimes and then take pictures and send them over to him, and it works out well for all of them, and we were able to get it done quickly because historically those are just a wrench in their gears, of a transaction.
Yes.
So we try to get those expediently. We've got a good system down, so that's another one to add in there.
From what we gather, AMA inspections. I keep saying home inspections. I'm going to get better at that by the end of this podcast. But AMA inspection services is somebody that you can trust. And I know a lot of people have a distrust when it comes to home inspectors. They think they're just going to pick them apart. And a lot of home inspectors have a bad issue of acting like the home is absolutely falling apart. It's unlivable, even though it's not. So let's go ahead and talk about the role of a home inspector. Okay.
Sure.
What exactly does a home inspector do?
So I like to think I know a lot about a lot, but am in no way a subject matter of anything. I do prefer to be humble in most cases. I do have a lot of education in my head as far as like what a situation is, whether it's air quality or airflow issues, something that you're typically not going to be thinking about when you're looking at a house. I mean, there's a lot to the report just on its own, but as far as like scanning a house and looking for the details, and then I kind of talk about it, I'll talk about it a little later, but pieces of the puzzle is what I'm trying to do. From the very beginning, I've got a box of puzzle pieces, and by the end, I want that puzzle to be done. I know the pieces that need to fit for a proper report is what I'm saying. And it's really top to bottom kind of looking at it. At the end of the day, the name of the game is putting liability where it should be. And that goes for the buyer's agent, the seller's agent, the client, the inspector. There's liability for all of us. My ideal goal is to reduce the liability of major things going wrong with the house down the line. HVAC, electrical, stuff like plumbing. I'm just talking about the big picture. When you know all of those are okay, you're like, okay, let's buy the place now. That's a good feeling. You're making an informed decision. Or, hey, we need to go to the seller and be like, hey, I need some credit here, or you need to repair this there based on this report that I just got. Like, there's some things that I don't want to buy this house until those are repaired or I get credit for. So that's bartering chips is kind of how it's looked at. And kind of touching on what you're talking about earlier, as far as like how other people, especially like buyers and sellers, buyer's agent, seller's agent, view the inspector. It's opposite on both ends. You're a, how do they say it? A dream to the buyer and a nightmare to the seller. Those kind of things.
Exactly.
Yeah, I like to find balance. I think as I progressed in my years, learning balance in all things is a good thing. So trying to maintain that balance of, getting a great detailed report while not pulling up the carpets and tearing holes in the wall.
Yes.
It's a visual inspection, and it's really hard after the fact to explain to somebody, yeah, I missed that, but here's why. Tons of stuff in the house, this and that. There's any number of reasons why. I really don't try to miss things on purpose, and we will. And then it's a perception of the buyers and sellers too. Like, you're trying to tear it apart, or you're lazy, you're doing a lazy job.
Yeah. And a lot of people don't understand that as an inspector, he's not taking out the walls, tearing up the carpet. He's looking at what he can see visually. And what he can see is what's on the report. He looks for the function of a house, to make sure everything's functioning, make sure there's no visual damage, make sure there's no leaks in the roof, make sure there's like visual leaks. He's not going to be able to go up there and spray water on the roof is what I'm saying. He's got to look at the overall condition, I guess is what I'm trying to say, rather than every specific detail. Like if, for instance, I have this jewelry box and my wife's behind me, if there's something behind that, he's not going to move it to see if there's something behind that. He can't. So a lot of people have this idea that a home inspector just goes in and picks and prods every little thing, but there's certain things he can't do. So to fit for people that don't know, we're going to say these are people that have never purchased a home, to kind of fit how a home inspection or a commercial inspection or whatever inspection have you fits into the real estate process. So when you submit an offer onto a house, or a buyer submits an offer onto your house, they have an inspection contingency. And during this inspection contingency, you hire professionals like Austin to come in and complete any inspections that you need. And then Austin kind of touched on it a little bit. You, in turn, have a document put together that either asks for repairs or asks for credit or price reductions. And then you get that report from Austin, and you have your real estate agent, your real estate professional, broker, whatever you want to call them, are supposed to use that to help negotiate some more. So I like to think of a real estate transaction as like a poker game, and everybody has their hands. And Austin at this point is like a dealer handing you your card saying, you have this, and you have to use it to kind of make sure that you're making the correct and most informed choice. So Austin's not a scary person. Home inspectors aren't scary people. They're just doing their job at the end of the day. And a lot of people don't know what to expect. And that's what we're here to talk about today. So can you explain the difference for people that don't know the difference between a home inspection and an appraisal? So
they're very different, but often confused with each other first and foremost. I've getting several calls, and then finally like, oh, you need an appraisal. No, that's not me. But I'm dealing with the physical, the exterior, the structure, major components of the house, versus an appraiser who's they're measuring, they're there a lot less time than I am. I'm taking more time to look at the house in detail, but they're trying to gain the closest. I think the word is market value. I'm not sure if that's correct or not terminology, but at
Yes.
the end, but they're trying to gauge the market value so the bank can make a decision on whether to lend on it or not. But like I said, their process of becoming an appraiser is, I think, let's say mine took a year to get, theirs takes 3, and that's just to get to an apprentice, from what I understand. It takes some time to become an actual appraiser.
I think you actually have to go to college and get a degree,
It's heavy
if I'm not
duty
mistaken.
compared to us. We're like, I mean,
Yeah.
anybody can become an inspector. I mean, it's not the hardest thing in the world, but to actually, like in Ruidoso, is a little more physically demanding just based on the elements outside and vertical
Yes.
nature of the place.
An inspector focuses on the structure and everything too. And yes, appraisers do with different loan types. I know that. But if you look at it in a bigger picture, the appraiser's more looking at the value than looking at the condition. And they're looking at the condition, yes, but they're using the condition to estimate a value. It's like if you took what I do and you took what Austin does and you slammed them together. That's what an appraiser does. Why do you think it's important for both buyers and sellers to invest in a professional inspection?
Yeah, regardless of whether you're buyer or seller, an inspection is usually going to happen whether you're buying or selling. You know, it's like you're on one side of it or the other. And as a seller, I'll start out with like what we would call a pre-listing inspection. I want to sell my house. Why don't I just go ahead and get this inspection over with? I'm bold enough to do it. You know, let's get this over with, kind of stuff. Let's see what he can come up with, and I'll take care of it. I've seen that really work well in several real estate transactions. Like, it was very smooth and seamless. Things were taken care of up front. Quick buyer, everybody's happy. Seller gets to sell, buyer gets a new house. Yeah, and on the buyer side, it's just your due diligence. You're about to make probably what normal people usually assume as the biggest transaction of your financial decisions of your life. The $400 inspection isn't going to be detrimental in the grand scheme of things looking at the house. So it's due diligence, and again, putting liability where it needs to be. Like, you want the risk of something going wrong with your house on the inspector versus your pocketbook. That inspector has insurance.
Exactly.
That inspector has a warranty. That he may just be a decent enough guy to come and try to make the situation better, if there is one. You know, at the end of everything, when you're closed and moving in and realize, oh no, there's a problem, and that inspector should have caught it.
Yes.
Maybe he should have, maybe he shouldn't have. So, or she. I know several women inspectors, and want to include.
I know people. So getting a professional inspection is you're weighing the different choices on the scales, the pros and cons. Getting a professional inspection is definitely going to outweigh the cons. You want to take care of issues before they happen. So a home inspector is going to come in. He's going to tell you the issues. You can address them before it's even in your name. It's even your house. And if there's a potential issue that could come into fruition later down the road, Austin is most likely going to tell you, hey, this is going to be an issue later. You need to get it fixed. So it's like, if you do the inspection on your own and you don't hire a professional, there's a lot of stuff that's going to get missed. And the sellers are less likely to take a buyer seriously if they just come in and say, well, I saw this, I saw that. If you have a home inspection, you have the official documents. Sellers are going to be a little more lenient if you need repairs or you need a price reduction or credit or whatever it is that you're asking for. You know, it's kind of one of those things, you're spending nickels and dimes to have Austin's services when it comes to the price of the actual home. Because Austin's services are going to help you save money. Because I know, for instance, this is a prime example. We bought the house that we're living in right now, and we didn't get a chance to get a home inspection because this property is a foreclosure. And we actually were told that the roof was new. So we believed them, and we didn't have a home inspection. And come to find out, the roof is not new. And we've had several leaks in the house since then, but we've fixed and we've corrected. But if we would have had the chance to get a home inspection, we probably would have caught those issues before we even purchased the house. From my experience, get a home inspection when you can. Get an inspection on anything that you need an inspection on, especially when it comes to sewer scopes. It comes to termites. It comes to mold. That one's very important as well. It's an investment. That's the way to look at it. It's not you purchasing. It's an investment that's not going to be wasted. And if it comes back clean, like Austin said, peace of mind. You don't have to think about it anymore. So, because there's some houses that'll come back with a clean inspection, and it's always nice when that happens, but it's very rare.
I don't always want to be a salesman, but that was pretty good. You don't have to be. Like, it's just, I hate to say common sense, but I think due diligence is the word. And that's, I mean,
Due diligence is the word.
if you don't do this, it's on you, sorry. You should have had an inspection. I didn't have an inspection on my house.
And it's in the contract.
Kind of upset about it.
There's
nothing
it's
I
in
can
the
do
contract.
about it. Yeah. I mean, 2020 when we came, there was a lot of reasons, and then, I can give reasons why inspections can be sideswiped. 2020 was like a Shark Tank for real estate. Everybody, buyer, like, we don't need an inspection. I'm paying $40,000 over the market or over the asking price. This is my house.
Yeah.
I'll take care of it when the
it was a weird time. In today's market, though, definitely don't skip it. If you absolutely can't, I understand if you can't afford it, if you're spending your last dollars getting this house already, I get that. But if you have the opportunity, do it, no matter the situation.
One thing to insert right there for AMA's sake, we do offer buy now, pay later. In some cases, I'll do pay at closing, bank transfers, checks. There's multiple different ways of paying, but the buy now, pay later offers you the chance to, especially like if you're tight on the credit, you don't have to put anything. It won't show up on your credit report until after closing. Like, it's set up like that. So it's helpful for some buyers, especially like when you start bundling the sewer scope. I mean, a typical, the trifecta is what I call it, the sewer scope, the termite, and the home inspection. That can run up to $800-900, and that's me giving a good deal. So yeah, it can run up there. And it's just for information, the typical home inspection is based on square footage. That's how we usually make our estimates and stuff. So it's anywhere from like 20 to 30 cents, somewhere roundabout in that area.
That's a great thing for me to keep in mind as well. You just kind of educating me on the buy now, pay later. I know that there are some buyers out there that'll use that, though. I think that's a great opportunity for some. So that is something to keep in mind. So let's go ahead and talk about preparing for an inspection. We're going to talk about sellers, and we're going to talk about buyers too, and how everybody in the situation can prepare for an inspection. And I think even talking to a real estate professional about how to prepare for this inspection is also good as well, because they're going to walk you through the negotiation processes. But I think hearing it from a home inspector is also going to be beneficial for a lot of people. So what should sellers do to prepare their home for an inspection? I know I'm going to say right off the bat, don't hide anything. That's my first thing. Do not hide anything.
Yeah, that's the name of the game. That's the ideal situation. I use the word ideal a lot, but as a home inspector, I have I wouldn't call it an odd vantage point, but it's a unique vantage point to be able to see in a transaction. You're not trying to pay attention to this like on purpose. You have really no financial or personal interest in anything, but you get to have a minor glimpse into the transaction and what's going on with it. So, your sellers start there. And what they can do to prepare for a home inspection is ideally they're gone and the house is empty and I have it all to myself and I can just put my earphones in and run around and get my job done. But to me, it doesn't matter. I want to meet you where you're at. I am intruding into your area. Sometimes people are in the middle of a really stressful move and a bad time in life. I don't want to add to that stress. As a seller, I would just encourage a semi-clean place with a dog poop cleaned up in the backyard. And if you're comfortable leaving, that's great. But if not, we can work around it. But the one thing where I do kind of draw the line is if you're a seller and you want to hang over my shoulder and understand every little thing that I'm doing, you need to pay me some money and you need to sign some documents. It's kind of joking there, but it's my job is to not disclose anything to that seller. If you're a seller and you're kind of hanging out, I'm not like trying to avoid you, but at some point I'm like, hey, I really need you to kind of leave me alone and let me do my job at some point. I've had to do that twice.
In a nice way.
1,000 inspections. Like, it's not a big deal, but it's an implication, I guess. Most of the time, the sellers, they'll tell you everything that they want to be upfront. It's wonderful. They do my job for me. Wow. Thank you. But again, like you said it up front, sometimes, unfortunately, the opposite of that happens. And people were really just painting over stuff. I don't need to go into detail. You can insert your own scenario. However, it's the worst of the worst to whatever, but, it happens and it's not right. It's not great. And I think that, things happen for a reason and they're going to have a hard time selling that house.
So it's good for sellers to be prepared and the main thing for me is don't cover up anything. It's going to cause more issues, especially if Austin finds it, because he does. He'll find it, and then you're going to end up in more trouble.
Nicholas can correct me if I'm wrong, but it is illegal to intentionally not disclose something. It's like
Yep.
It's not legal.
It is in your contract, and it's called an adverse material fact. That's anything that you know is wrong with the property, and if you incorrectly disclose information or you hide something, don't say anything, and then it comes up later, you can get in a lot of trouble. It could be a big legal issue. So just keep yourself safe. Do like Austin likes and do his job for him, and make sure you tell him, what is wrong. And he can at the end of the day, it's scary, yes, but at the end of the day, it does come to a resolution most of the time.
Then I would never ask that, like, to a seller. I would never ask, hey, I need to know everything wrong with your house. So I think, given a particular situation, I'll be like, hey, was there ever a roof leak somewhere? And I'm not like trying to like be FBI person trying to investigate with the flashlight in your face. Tell me where this leak was, No.
Yes.
I'm in and out. It usually takes about 3.5 hours to get an inspection done.
Yeah. And I mean, that's a fair question to ask people, and it should be on their property disclosure before you even show up to the house anyways. But at least that way you know what to expect, you know what to look for, and everything like that.
I was just going to say, there's some situations, like I've worked with some dementia patients and elderly patients to where like they didn't know, they really didn't know, so it's like, do you have to factor some of that in? And it becomes, I don't think it's a big deal anywhere, but it's wild how, I don't like to say the word random, but how diverse everything is when you're really just going from here and there, so crazy things
you're going to deal with different people, different situations, different houses. I mean, in Lincoln County as a whole, every house, I believe, is different in its own way. Too. That's how I explain it to clients. There's no house that's the same. They're all going to inspect differently. You can even have a brand new house and still have issues with it.
Buyers should have a mental or physical list of concerns to relay to me beforehand, and they should feel empowered to ask questions and be a part of the inspection if they like. Like I said, it's important to meet people where they're at. Yeah, absolutely. And I move fast. I'm kind of motivated, and I move quickly. So I try to meet people where they're at. If they're wanting to keep up, if they're wanting to move with me through the inspection, like, that's fine. I can slow down. My job is to work for you. I work for you. I work for you. It's like, I'm not working for anybody else. I'm here to help you. So the more prepared you can be up front, like, some people have an entire list. I want this checked. I'm concerned about this. What do you think about that? So yeah, it's a differing levels of preparedness up front. And I try to do, and understand, I try to do a summary at the end of what I found before you even get the report, before we leave. If you're there, and we'll run through a quick summary. That way you can leave feeling one way or the other, Let's see. I think we talk about that later. The actual report of a home inspection, there's a lot of information.
I know each inspector has their own process, right? And I know that you have your own process of how you work through things. But can you walk me through like a typical inspection? You just pulled up in the driveway. What are you doing?
Generally, I like to access is first. Like, I'm making sure that we have access to the house, where I'm not having to call somebody, hey, can you unlock this for me, please? And sometimes that happens, but that's first and foremost. I make sure the utilities are on. Do a brief look in the interior, kind of get to know the place, and then start back on the outside, get my ladder, get my impact driver to the electrical panel, maybe take the panel off already, take the cover off the electrical panel, and find the water heater, crawl space, attic accesses, assessing things as I go, bouncing back and forth. It's really kind of, I wouldn't say chaotic, but there's less sanity in the beginning of the inspection than later on once you get to where you get your phone. I use my phone, but start taking pictures and inputting data into the report. I like to start on the rear left corner, go all the way around the house, maybe go around twice, whatever, get overview pictures, hit the roof, attic, crawl space. Then next I'm looking for the utility, like the HVAC, water heater stuff, then the electrical panel, and then kitchen appliances, plumbing, which involves sinks, valves, toilets, showers, bathtubs, bidets, showers, tile. There's lots of stuff there. And then it's kind of check the function of everything with a thermal camera. I'm looking for the differential and the air conditioner, the heat from the heater, water temperature, just anything that heats and cools. I'm looking to make sure that it's properly functioning. Bigger houses have multiple systems, so that takes longer. You're trying to differentiate systems and make sure, yes, this is that one, that one's this one. Just really trying to do a good job in the report to be detailed. That way, be detailed when you're there, like to have some discipline. And it takes some discipline to sit there because you want to keep moving, but I need to input this data correctly, and I need to input it now because I'm not going to do it later. I will forget. And that's bringing more sanity into the report process. But there's a lot of things going on, especially if you've got clients there. Like I said, I always love for clients to be there. That reduces my liability, especially when they're telling me their concerns, when the seller's telling me everything that's wrong with it. That's ideal. That's awesome. I can make a good report. Everybody's happy. I try to notate nameplates on the major appliances. That way you can go back and look. And this is a 2016 HVAC system, or, this oven's from 1902. Need a new one. Those kind of things.
It was original with the house back when it was built in the 1800s.
Yeah,
exactly.
Minor cracking around the outside.
Exactly. So I know of some of the tools that you use, but we'll go ahead and tell people about them. I know that you use a drone, correct? And then you also have it's like a rover almost, right? Like a little RC rover that goes under the house and takes pictures too. Yeah. Are there any other tools that you use, or are those kind of your main ones?
That thermal camera really comes in handy. I mean, it can find phantom leaks. It can detect insulation anomalies. Like I said, it makes a really nice report. It overlays the actual picture with the thermal picture and then gives like a high and a low and then the center point. A lot of the inspectors, they have the handheld laser thermometers, and those are great. They work, but the thermal camera is great.
Thermal camera does that too, right? Checks the temperature. Yeah.
Yeah,
so it's like an all-in-one kind of tool.
Yes. Yeah, I mean, it's
very cool. Very cool.
Handy.
And with the rover, did you build that yourself?
No, my buddy Luis in El Paso, he was great. It's a kit, and you put a GoPro. It's lithium ion. I think I've helped him beta test some a little bit, and I've done a lot of my repairs. It's actually broken right now. We're working on trying to get a different camera put on it. But yeah, I use it a lot. I break it. I have to fix it. You can definitely tell my repairs versus his. He's a lot better.
I mean, it seems like you use it quite often.
I do.
I mean, it's one of those things.
That's a big difference in other places in Ruidoso's crawl spaces.
You don't have to crawl under there. Why not?
And I do crawl. It's like, that's kind of the idea is I don't want to get complacent. That's personally my fear, and then things I work towards is not being complacent. Like, oh, I'm just running into this crawl bot under here. Everything looks good. Drive out. No, that looks kind of suspicious. I'm going to crawl under there and look at it. I want to take shortcuts in these inspections because, one of those times that's going to get me in trouble, whether that's
right,
ruining somebody's day or getting sued into oblivion, and whatever that looks like.
Exactly.
But no, that crawl bot, the safety is the other thing on as a home inspector. We're going into rural or urban areas where you could just get, blasted, walking into some place. There's the initial danger of what's this guy? I don't ever see people walking around houses all over the place. What's he doing? Go over there and beat him up, whatever. I don't know.
Like you're talking like the neighbors.
Yes,
the surrounding areas. Yeah. If they don't know what's going on.
Back to access, making noise, like making sure nobody's there, that you're not startling anybody. You're communicating that you're there, and hopefully you're at the right place, because that's happened too.
I've done that too. I've gone to the wrong house to take pictures, and then I'm like, uh-oh.
But places like Arabella, Hondo, like there's people with guns. Like there's people that they're out there because they like to be left alone and they don't need anybody bugging. I'm totally with that, but I don't want to be
a lot of homesteaders a lot of homesteaders out there. So
yes,
definitely pretty scary.
But anyways, that's
exactly.
just something people don't think about. It's like, I want to be known. A lot of inspectors, they wear a vest with like reflective. Hey, I'm an inspector. It's good to broadcast that because there's random situations. But no, the crawl spot, I was trying to talk a little bit about the safety aspect. We're going into crawl spaces with skunks, raccoons, asbestos, sewer.
Mold.
Sewer's the worst one. Sometimes that happens. But yeah, that crawl bot, it comes in very handy as an initial inspector.
Yeah.
Flush anything that's in there out, but no, it's wonderful. And I think more inspectors should utilize them where they can. They're becoming more available now.
Yeah.
And the drone that goes up in the air, I like to use for like higher end houses. I'm really not technically supposed to be utilizing that drone for monetary purposes. So what I do is I like this house. It's a nice house. I'm going to take a picture with Sierra Blanca in the background. It's still recreational for me, and I'll put it in the report. But I'm not necessarily utilizing the drone to do the report in a sense. It's
for fun. A question that's kind of off script here that I want to ask you is, what is the craziest thing that you have found in a home inspection?
Most recently was a decapitated Barbie head in a refrigerator of a house that somebody lived in. I mean, they were they were functioning out of that house, and it was just really weird to open that up. Like, I'm not going to freak out, but that's weird. I have a picture of it. I'll send you, but
Yeah.
other stuff.
So you're telling me somebody put a decapitated Barbie head inside of a fridge. I wonder
I
if they
don't
did that
know.
on purpose for you.
I don't know if it was for me or what, but it was odd. Very odd.
Yes.
Interesting.
That's pretty hilarious. What are some of the most common issues you find during a home inspection?
Minor cracking, whether that's drywall, concrete, brick, stucco. A house 5 years old is susceptible to cracking, especially in higher altitudes such as Ruidoso or Alamogordo, where it's just a desert. The UV is going to cause things to crack. I said those usually they're minor, and our report says, seal them, monitor them over time to make sure they're not getting any worse, but not making a big deal of it. It's going to happen. Every house.
Especially where we
Always
live
an
at.
exception.
In the mountains.
Yes.
In the mountains, we get a lot of settlement.
Things
And it's not a scary thing. It's just how the mountains are.
That's like I try to buttress those comments with pier and beam. It is a vertical support on a beam. So it's designed to settle over time, and it is designed to be repaired by shimming up. So it's a pretty easy fix. Bigger houses have bigger complications with foundation issues, but at the end of the day, those repairs are pretty straightforward, whether they're complicated or timely in cost and labor. It's more hard to find somebody to do it than to get it done. Usually that's in a crawl space,
Right.
and it's uncomfortable. But no, clogged gutters, drainage issues, GFCIs not in bathrooms, the garage doors not self-closing. I mean, I have a little list. I always put those, we use pre-canned comments in I say our, and it's just me. It's not plural. The comments that I use the most are at the top of the list. They're always checked.
Yeah.
Drainage issues in Lincoln County are usually more of a bigger issue, but definitely,
Would you say that's a
right
red
off the bat,
flag?
you don't even have to look at it. You can walk in the front door. I know I'm going to have this, and this that's going to be going on with this house. So yeah, there's definitely commonalities that make complacency kind of get a little easier, and you try not to. You want to test we're required to test a subjective number of windows, a subjective number of receptacles. I generally try to do the ones I can see, the ones that are exposed. Like I said, I'm not climbing over people's beds and going through cabinets to find the receptacles and stuff like that. So
No.
we're doing our best.
So a question on those commonalities, as you called them. Would you say that you expect certain commonalities depending on the age of the home?
Definitely.
Okay. Would you expect those as well for the certain type of home? Like if it's a site built, it's a condo, it's a manufactured housing, a duplex, whatever have you. Would you say that those commonalities come out more in certain types of homes?
Yeah, I definitely think so. I mean, it's hey, I know there's not a water softener. Hey, I know I'm in Ruidoso or Capitan. Hey, I know this is an older house and I know nothing's been repaired. All of these valves are going to be corroded. So I can generally, that's another good term for a home inspector is a generalist. We're making generalizations. We're not going to take a picture of every little valve or every single valve there's in the house. What we're going to say, we're going to take a picture of 2 or 3 of them and say, there were multiple locations of this. Get you a plumber over here.
And, if he was to take pictures of every single thing, it would, for one, overwhelm the buyers. And in turn, it would overwhelm the brokers, the agents as well, because then they got to talk their buyers off a cliff. There's got to be a balance. So what would be an example of a red flag? What's a red flag for you when you're doing a home inspection? Like, what's something that you're like, this absolutely has to be fixed right away?
So like actual structural concerns, electrical issues where you're seeing like this thing is glowing, you understand that there's just a severe electrical problem. Windows not in a bedroom. There's a lot. I see a lot of that in Ruidoso versus everywhere else because people are converting their downstairs or crawl spaces into rentals or extra sleeping space. But egress issues, emergency, safety, those are all big red flags to me. Gas, not necessarily. And sewer, plumbing. I mean, that's not necessarily safety, but that's a red flag that needs to be cleaned up and repaired and cleaned up. And that's like biohazard. Need to disinfect it kind of stuff. But I also started thinking about understanding where multiple minor issues can ultimately add up into a major concern. So that goes back to, hey, I've got a box of puzzle pieces. I need to put that puzzle together to see the big picture. I'm trying to do the best job of making that puzzle detailed so the buyer can see the big picture and make a decision. I mean, that's short and sweet, but those red flags, that's when things kind of, I wouldn't say deteriorate, but that's when they become a little more complex and they need to be addressed on a basis on addressed each one of them.
Yes. And I completely get that. And I think people are going to understand that too. If you have, 10 minor problems, they may not cause issues now, but later down the road, they may cause you one big issue. So just keep that in mind when
kind of like the example I gave with the hey, there's no water softener. Hey, this is hard water. All the valves.
Your pipes are going to be messed up by the time, especially up here, we have hard water. It's just the honest thing to say. And that's a very common issue, is a lot of corrosion on the pipes.
Yeah, and like, I don't ever say, hey, you need to get a water softener. Hey, you have to get a water softener. We're nobody to tell anybody anything, but it's like, I suggest you get a water softener or contact somebody that's smart with those.
As a professional. Yeah. Yes. Always contact a professional.
Licensed, bonded, insurance, permits,
all the above,
all this stuff. It will save you when you go to sell your house. Like, you may think it's upfront, it's saving you money, but I promise you down the line, it is not. And I mean, that's kind of a bar none situation on that one. I see it a lot. And to give the handyman some spotlight, they absolutely have their place in life, but it's not electrical, it's not gas, it's not HVAC. I mean, some of them get into HVAC, but it's like,
if you have a system issue,
get a license, cover your clients, cover yourself.
Exactly.
Not a good thing if it's in the wrong place.
Exactly. That's 100% true. And I agree with everything he just said on that. So we're talking about the types of homes, right? And we know that there's some unusual types of homes out there. What is the most unusual type of home that you've ever inspected?
The Wortley Hotel in Lincoln, that was cool. A lot of old historic stuff. I mean, it kind of gets into more Lincoln County. I know there's later on we can talk about that, but White Oaks, I believe White Oaks is a part of Lincoln County. Correct me if I'm wrong, but there's beautiful properties over there, and I mean, not over there, but like historic properties. I did one early in my career that was from like 1820 something, and the guy had redone everything. I mean, it was really cool.
Historic properties are really cool, especially to show. I know in Lincoln, especially, there's a lot of cool properties that come up for sale quite often. Like he's talking about the hotel. There's a couple hotels over there that are for sale right now. And I know that they had the school there was for sale. Somebody turned it into a house. That one was really awesome. And then, of course, yes, White Oaks is a part of Lincoln County. They're on the very edge, I'm pretty sure, but they are out there. And I've been out there. I have pictures of all kinds of these historic buildings because they're just fascinating. We live in such a historic area, and people they take it for granted if you really think about it. So let's talk about after the inspection. This is a very crucial part of the process. And let's talk about interpreting the report, and I'll go over the next steps. We've kind of already iterated on that, but I want to go ahead and do it again just so people can kind of understand, because we've talked about before, we talked about during, now we're going to talk about after. So how should a buyer go about reading a report and understanding the inspection?
Buyers should approach reading and understanding the inspection report by first taking some deep breaths and understanding that it's a lot of information to digest all at once. So skim over it a few times and then go back and really read it. But, I really encourage you to read the report. Like, don't just flip through it, whatever, there's a lot of information. Like, honestly, there's a lot of information there. And I put links to websites, pictures, just tons of stuff to absorb. And I would encourage you to try to do what I do and put the pieces of the house together, and especially the things that are important to you. But understanding at the same time, some home inspectors, they have a bad day. They can make a mistake. But if caught early before you close by somebody, whether it's the agent or the client, the buyer, saying, oh, wait a minute, this doesn't look, I saw this and I meant to say something, or you should have caught this kind of issue, but we can add it to the report. And before you close, before the contingency period's over, not closed, but before those contingency periods are over, and the report can be updated and life goes on. But after those dates are expired, that's a different story. And that's when we talk about like warranties and insurance and holding the inspector accountable, or understanding if he was responsible for neglecting to report that, whatever it was. But no, holistically and just realize that it's a visual examination and it's helping you make a decision. Yeah, everything can be fixed. We'll get through it. And then, if you don't like it, you should be completely happy to say no. Like, I found a lot of stuff in this report I don't want. I'm backing out. That's it. You should feel empowered to say those, or, try to find ways to close the deal or whatever. But, there's another one. I'll make you a good deal on a repeat inspection. It happens. I've done like 6 to 7 inspections for one person because I don't know if it was their luck or their luck of the draw, or if they were just really picky. But, it's like, I don't even know if I charged her on that, the 7th one. Like, it's situational, but I try to encourage people just to relax and take some deep breaths.
Yeah. I really like that term that you used. I like the take a deep breath. Take it in a little at a time, because it's a lot to get in and it's a lot to go over, and don't be scared. And if it's too much, if you feel like, you're getting in over your head, you can always say no. That's the point of the inspection contingency. And what I mean by inspection contingency, for those that don't know, it's a set amount of days that you have from the time you go under contract to the expiration date that your broker or your agent gives you. And it's typically the same amount of days. Some agents do things different. It's not a set amount of days. I like to do mine 7, 14, 21. So it's 7 days from the date of acceptance, you get your home inspection ordered. And then we have 14 days from the date of acceptance to get our objections in. No, that's wrong. It's 7, 14, and I do like 18 or 19. So we come to a resolution within those set amount of days and we move forward. But during this set amount of days, if you feel uncomfortable and you feel like, oh, this is too much, I can't, this is going to cost a fortune, then we can get you out. It's not too late. That's the nice part about getting a professional home inspection as well, because you have something to get you out in the end. And I'll kind of go over what steps do I recommend that buyers take, and then we'll ask Austin as well what he thinks. So after receiving the report, like he said, take deep breaths. Any good broker, any good agent is going to sit down with you, and we're going to go line by line on this inspection. We're going to take it in little by little. We're going to tell you, this is pretty concerning. We should ask for this, or that's just something you can, that crack in the wall, you could just fill it in with caulk. You could fill it in with some silicone, whatever you want to use, and you can patch it up real easy. That's not anything we're going to burden the seller with. And the next steps after the inspection is to just line everything out. See what concerns you. See what makes you uncomfortable. And then as a broker and an agent, we're going to make sure we can try to get stuff fixed for you, or try to get you at least a credit for you to fix it after closing.
Definitely.
We're going to talk about advice for first-time home buyers and navigating the inspection for them. Austin, what advice would you give to first-time home buyers going through their first inspection?
So first, it's kind of like we were talking about earlier. Just relax, take some deep breaths. And I would encourage you to relax even more, because you haven't been burdened by a mortgage yet. Enjoy those last remaining days of that. And don't be done with a credit card. Listen to your agent. Be patient. Be firm when you need to, or feel like you're being ignored or rushed. That's what I had typed out, but I thought it was funny that you should realize that those mortgage-free days are waning at that point. Grow up. You grow up quick. When you get a mortgage, it will really do some damage if you're not prepared to handle it. And then you should be educated of those adverse consequences as well. Credit reporting, this and that. You probably won't be able to buy another house again for a long time. But we don't like that. It's
be smart.
Be smart and be upfront. Be verbal. Don't hold back. I mean, this is you. Like we're here for you. Like agents, like everybody in the service industry, we're here for you. And that's where we should position ourselves, and be humble, be understanding, be listening, and understanding that a first-time home buyer, man, that's a big step. So it's motivating and encouraging.
It is a huge step. But
also not sugarcoating anything. Like, dude, you need to get that panel replaced. That's going to blow up. Like stuff like that.
Yeah. And it's one of those things, as a first-time home buyer, people need to realize, don't be afraid to ask questions. If you have a professional that is not answering your questions, makes you feel bad about your questions, you can always find somebody else. And I know, some personalities don't meet with other personalities. That's completely understandable. But in my opinion, and in Austin's opinion too, from what it sounds like, do not hesitate to ask questions. because we're going to answer them for you to the best of our ability. And if we can't answer for you right now, we'll get you an answer. It's not a bad thing to ask questions. Don't be scared. We're here to help. And at the end of the day, we're all just trying to get to the finish line. And we're just here to coach you and help you get there.
That's the idea.
Yes. Question for you, though. What should first-time homebuyers look for when choosing a reliable inspector?
Reviews go a long way. I mean, we're 2024 now. There's the internet, like reviews, word of mouth. I feel like Ruidoso has a wonderful way of, recommending several people at once. And then you get to kind of choose. Ability to communicate quickly. That's a big one. Multiple services, experience, and most importantly, they should have a state issued home inspector license. I haven't heard of anybody trying to do inspections without a license, but like I said, I live under a rock in Ruidoso, and I like it. Kind of thing.
And I mean, that's not a question that we typically ask home inspectors because we just automatically assume that you guys are licensed. So I guess that's something that even I should start asking.
I mean, honestly, and it's you have to keep up with that license. There's continuing education. You have to keep up with your insurance. They have our fingerprints on record. I mean, it's a pretty big deal to have a state inspector
Same
license.
thing with us too.
But yeah, I mean,
it's the same thing with us too.
Sample inspections.
We have our continuing education.
One that I wanted to point out, you should ask for a sample inspection. Like, I have them readily available on my website. I know others do too, and it's a good thing. You can kind of see what their inspection's about, what they're looking for. But generally, the state of New Mexico after 2021, we have a pretty well a criteria of what we're supposed to be looking at, and there's always the random things that we'll add in there based on the situation. So there's all.
Yeah, and that's a good thing to think about. I didn't know that you guys had sample inspections on your websites usually. And I think that's good, not only for first-time home buyers, but for any buyer in general, just to kind of see what they're getting themselves into.
There's not just one or two, there's 15 or 16 of them on there showcasing different types of houses. And I try to do, I mean, not bragging by any means or like trying to promote anything, but I do try to make each inspection that I do worthy of being a sample inspection. It's like I take a little bit of pride in my inspections. I'm not saying that others don't, but that's a contributing factor to what I would consider some success as an individual.
Yes. I mean, it's your baby. You got to take care of it. It should be something you should be proud of. So you create these inspections. I mean, that's the moral of the story right there. But, choosing a reliable inspector too, something I wanted to kind of touch base on is check their schedule too. Because a lot of inspectors are always going to say, I'm 2 weeks out, and you don't have your ducks in a row for your contingency deadlines. So make sure, if they're not available, that's okay. You can shop around. You don't have to settle for one. And I would love for you to use Austin. Austin's great. But if you need somebody else, that's okay. We're not offended. It's business, right? And you don't have to stick to one person. You don't have to stick to me. You don't have to, it's just, it is what it is. We won't get our feelings hurt.
Kind of goes back to you're making your decisions.
Exactly. Well, what to expect when you're inspecting is to make your decisions.
Whether they be wise or not, that's on you. And we'll help you with it, but whether or not it's wise, that's on you.
I mean, same thing with having a baby. It's your choices that you made. Real quick, Austin, what do you enjoy most about inspecting homes in Lincoln County?
I'm kind of a rock hound. I absolutely love the geology. I find that people have more art on their walls in Ruidoso, Lincoln County in general. I love looking at art. I love the history. I love the views. I love the people. I mean, it's a pretty cool place to be. And my job allows me to just travel all over the place, looking at it and taking pictures. And yeah, I consider myself lucky to do what I do. So, but yeah,
it is definitely beautiful here. And we definitely do live in a beautiful place.
There's a lot to Lincoln County that I don't see in other counties, like South counties where I'm from. They're geared a little different, desert, oil field, Carlsbad, Hobbs kind of areas, and Roswell is a thing of its own. Alamogordo is military, and I mean, there's things to be said for all of them, but Lincoln County and Ruidoso and surrounding areas are definitely a little more special in my opinion. Sorry to the others.
Completely agree with you. And we're kind of like I like to say a vast county. We're a big county.
Yeah.
And there's all different types of terrains. There's all different types of geology, like he said. There's all different types of, We have deserts, we have mountains, we have hills, we have water, we have a little bit of everything. And I think that's really what makes Lincoln County unique in its own way. And I know people a lot of the times get caught up and take what we have around us for granted. And we don't really appreciate where we live, because there's people that live in places that aren't so fun, that are not good places to live, but we live in a really good place. And the community is great. The people are great. I mean, we try our best to make this welcoming for anybody that wants to come. And that's going to kind of segue into a question that's kind of off script I had for Austin here. If, say, somebody's coming in from out of town wanting to live here full time or vacation or whatever have you, what would you recommend for them to do?
Mountain biking. Since the fires, I don't like down or anything, but those areas are still pretty cool. I mean, if you can get in there safely, where I'm at in Perk Canyon, it's just a re-edited landscape. There's still cool stuff to do out there in the forest. Don't let the landscape difference from a year ago change your mind. But there's a lot. Midtown, I mean, Grindstone's fun. Just the people, there's just a lot of random
hiking
stuff. The people are great here. I mean, they've always been welcoming to me, and I've in turn tried to do that to each one of my clients, and just, based on their specific position, recommend like, hey, this Mexican restaurant's the best one in my opinion versus that one, or here's where you get shoes, here's where you get some good boots, like, I don't know, it's and I don't like making,
you need recommendations.
It's not necessarily my job as the inspector, but I don't like make specific nations. I don't get into that too often, especially like, hey, where's a general contractor to use, or hey, who's a plumber to use. I don't really get into recommending. It's like, it's called Google. Look it up yourself.
I have a list. Yep.
Yeah, they all have lists.
I have a list. I'll send it to you. That's what I do. And I say, here you go. Here you go. Take this list. You choose who you want to use, because, we all have to live together, And in reality, Lincoln County is kind of like a family, and we all have to live together. So we're going to end up seeing each other again. It's a big county, but it's a small place, if that makes any sense at all.
It does. I've really enjoyed being able to help some of the fire victims and get them into new houses, or figure out what their next move is. It's been really, I wouldn't say personal, but I mean, we just trying to help, like understanding. It goes back to understanding the situation. Oh wait, you didn't tell me up front, like we're at the inspection, you didn't tell me that your house burned down in the fire. Let me help you out with the price. Is there anything else I can do for you? Those kind of things. It's like, I want to be those people. I want to be that kind of person that the people of Lincoln County have been to me. So there's that.
Pay it forward. Pay it forward. That's the biggest thing in Lincoln County. We're going to be nice to you. You be nice in return. I mean, that's the golden rule when we were kids, You got to do unto others that you would want unto yourself. So
when you learn,
at least,
when you don't.
Lincoln County is a very, exactly. All right, so let's go ahead and talk about Austin's business and everything about him real quick. So Austin McCrary is with AMA Home Inspections, or I'm sorry, let me correct it. He's going to hate me by the end of this, but AMA Inspection Services. There we go. Where can the listeners, especially for the audio listeners, because they can't see visuals on the screen, where can they reach out to you to book an inspection, like your phone number?
575-318-8387. Call, text. I have a website, amainspection.com. The email is even easy. It's amainspection@amainspection.com. Like I said, call, text. I'll answer. If I don't, I will be getting back to you. Our website's pretty functional too. You can book an inspection. You can get a quote. You can look at sample inspections. You can kind of see all of our services. There's a few that we didn't mention that are just kind of, we'll help you plan a fire escape plan, or just little things you can look on the website on. But yeah, not too hard to get a hold of.
He is not hard to get a hold of at all. If he doesn't answer, I suggest shoot him a text, and he'll answer eventually. We're all human. You got to give us some time. We're in the middle of something, but we will get back to you. That's the thing. And I know from experience, I'm going to give Austin a shout out myself here. I know from experience and my wife Lily's experience that Austin is a great inspector, and I've used his services quite a bit. He's the one that I recommend the most. I'm going to be honest with you. And he's very detail oriented. He shows up on time. Actually, most of the time he's there earlier than what he says. He's there within 10 minutes early or so.
Thank you.
His detailed reports are great. He doesn't make you feel like you should just go jump off a cliff after reading his inspection report, which is a plus for me. But if you were to choose anybody, I would recommend Austin 100%.
Thanks.
So make sure you give him a call if you need a home inspection. And if you just have any questions in general, like let's say you're not even wanting to sell your house, you just want to get it inspected just to see what you need to work on, call him up, text him. He'll help you out. And yeah, do you have anything that you want to say about AMA before we wrap up today?
I named it AMA for Austin McCrary and Associates. I don't really have any associates yet, but I'm working on that. So it's like trying to branch out. Kids are getting a little older. We're not dealing with little babies anymore. So it's time to expand and do some better things with the company and try to, benefit the community and then get out there and have fun. So I like having fun. Yeah, AMA's.
So would you say that your company is open to getting more people?
Yeah.
Like, are you looking for other inspectors to join your business?
I mean, there's definitely seasons, and I think other inspectors or would-be inspectors need to understand that there are peaks and highs and lows of the inspection season. I'm sure it's similar with real estate and oil town booms and busts, whatever. But yeah, when it gets busy, yeah, there's definitely a need for another inspector. Like I've run myself ragged some months. It's a, I don't know.
Yeah.
It's just the name.
Well, if anybody,
figure something out. Whether it's a secretary or somebody to answer the phone, that would go a long way help too. But I love being self-employed. But we're there that balancing act of getting too big for your britches or the opposite. We're definitely trying to double down.
Yes, and I completely understand that.
I have an office, so it's not just my truck anymore. So.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. You have a physical space, so that's always a handy thing to have. Yeah. So, I mean, if anybody's listening that may be interested in getting into home inspections or needs a job as a secretary, sounds like, maybe you should give Austin a call too, because it sounds like he might need a little help by next summer. So, again, if you guys need anything in terms of home inspections, commercial, any kind of inspections that Austin offers, give him a call, check out his website. There's a lot that goes into a home inspection. I hope this was enlightening, at least in the smallest bit, for some people, so that they know what to expect when they're inspecting. I know that's a funny name, but it's true. And I get asked all the time as a real estate professional, like rapid fire questions like, what does a home inspector do? Why do I need a home inspection? What do I do now? Or what? And that's what this podcast is really designed for. It's designed for real estate tips. It's designed for interviews with service providers like Austin. It's designed to have interviews with locals as well. Several people that I'm going to get on this show so that people can understand and really start to understand what Lincoln County is. And if you're thinking about moving here, you live here, you're vacationing here, we just want to make it comfortable for everybody. And I think that's how this podcast is going to evolve. So I'll have Austin back on here eventually, because we only touch the surface of home inspections. We only touch the surface of inspections, period. There's still a lot to handle, but this is at least a general idea of what to expect. So without further ado, thanks for coming on today, Austin. I really appreciate it. And we'll get back in the swing of things here pretty quick. I know when this episode comes out, Christmas is only a few days away, and we'll probably pick things back up when the new year rings. But you can listen to us on Spotify. We got on Apple Podcast, iHeartRadio, YouTube, Facebook, and we're still working on several other platforms, but those are the ones to start with. Yeah, I guess that's it. I hope everybody has an awesome day, an awesome rest of your week, and we'll see you guys in the next one. Thanks again, Austin.
You bet. Thank you.